The Galactic Council chambers stretched across 3 kilometers of polished stone, its dome reaching into the artificial sky of Station Nexus Prime. Ambassador Krell of the Vorthak Empire adjusted his ceremonial war claws as he watched the human delegation enter. Their small group looked pathetic compared to the massive entourages that accompanied proper warrior races. "Behold," Krell announced to the assembled representatives, his voice carrying the authority of a species that had conquered 47 star systems. The humans arrive with their usual arrogance. The Vorthak had brought Apex, their most decorated hunter. Standing 4 meters tall, with obsidian scales and razor-sharp talons, Apex had never lost a combat trial. The creature's reputation preceded it across the galaxy. A perfect killing machine bred for warfare on Vorthak Prime, where survival meant defeating predators that could tear through titanium hull plating. Representative Chen Wei of Earth's Diplomatic Corps walked forward with measured steps. Behind her followed Dr. Sarah Martinez, a xenobiologist, and Captain James Parker of Earth Defense. The final member of their group drew confused stares from every alien species present. Maria Santos appeared to be nothing special by human standards. She stood barely 1.6 meters tall, with graying hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her clothes were simple, dark pants and a worn jacket that had seen better days. Dark circles under her eyes suggested chronic exhaustion, and her calloused hands spoke of manual labor rather than warfare. "This is your champion?" The question came from Ambassador Threx of the Crystalline Hegemony, his translucent features shimmering with what his species considered laughter. "She appears to be past her prime breeding years." Maria's jaw tightened slightly, but she said nothing. She had been briefed on alien customs during the 6-month journey to Station Nexus Prime. The Galactic Council operated on principles of strength and dominance. Each major decision required a trial of champions, single combat between representatives of opposing factions. The current debate concerned humanity's application for full council membership. The Vorthak Empire, supported by several allied species, claimed humans were too weak to deserve a voice in galactic affairs. They had demanded this trial as proof of human worthiness. "The rules are simple," announced Chancellor Vorix, the ancient cetacean whose species had founded the Council millennia ago. "Single combat between chosen champions. No weapons beyond what each being naturally possesses. Victory goes to the last fighter standing." Krell's mandibles clicked in what passed for Vorthak amusement. "Perhaps the humans misunderstood our invitation. This is a combat trial, not a care facility for their elderly." Representative Chun stepped forward. "Maria Santos volunteers to represent humanity in this trial." The chamber erupted in various forms of alien laughter. The insectoid hive mind buzzed dismissively. The silicon-based ore crushers' grinding sounds indicated skepticism. Even a normally diplomatic aquatic collective made their disapproval known through bioluminescent displays. "Very well," Chancellor Vorix declared. "Let the champions prepare for combat." The arena occupied the station's central hub, a circular space 50 meters in diameter with gravity generators maintaining Earth-normal conditions. Spectator galleries rose in tiers around the fighting area, filled with representatives from dozens of species. Apex entered first, his massive frame moving with predatory grace. The Vorthak champion scales caught the arena lights like black mirrors. His claws extended to their full length, 30 centimeters of monomolecular edges that could slice through most known materials. Muscles rippled beneath his armored hide as he tested his range of motion. The crowd's approval was palpable. Here stood a warrior worthy of legend, a creature designed by evolution and enhanced by Vorthak military science to be the ultimate predator. Maria Santos entered the arena wearing the same clothes she had arrived in. She carried nothing except a small photograph tucked into her jacket pocket. The contrast between the two fighters seemed almost absurd. "Begin when ready," Chancellor Vorix announced. Apex immediately circled toward Maria, his movements fluid and calculated. The Vorthak champion had studied available footage of human combat techniques during the journey to Station Nexus Prime. Humans relied on tools and teamwork rather than individual prowess. Without weapons or allies, this female appeared defenseless. Maria stood perfectly still in the center of the arena. Her breathing remained steady and controlled. She tracked Apex's movement with her eyes, but made no aggressive moves of her own. The alien audience grew restless. Several species began making what their cultures considered bets on how quickly the human would fall. The general consensus gave her less than 30 seconds once Apex committed to an attack. Krell leaned forward in his observation booth. Something about the human female's stillness troubled him, though he couldn't identify why. She showed no fear, no defensive posturing, no attempt to maintain distance from his champion. If anything, she seemed to be waiting for something. Apex completed his second circle and moved closer. The distance between them had narrowed to 15 meters, well within his striking range. The Vorthak champion's hunting instinct screamed that this should be over already. His prey stood motionless, apparently resigned to her fate. "Finish it," Krell commanded through the arena's communication system. Apex exploded into motion. His powerful legs launched him forward in a devastating charge, claws extended to deliver killing strikes. The crowd held its collective breath as 4 meters of refined, killing machine bore down on the small human female. Maria moved. The motion was so subtle that most observers missed it entirely. She shifted her weight slightly to the left and took a single step forward. Apex's claws whistled through the space where she had been standing, his momentum carrying him past her position. The Vorthak champion spun with liquid grace, already adjusting for his miss. His tail lashed out in a crushing sweep that should have broken every bone in the human's body. Maria wasn't there. She had moved again, another minimal adjustment that placed her just outside Apex's range. The massive alien's tail struck empty air with enough force to crack the arena's reinforced flooring. Confused murmurs rippled through the spectator galleries. The human had avoided 2 attacks, but she still hadn't shown any offensive capability. Several species began updating their betting estimates. Apex snarled and launched a series of rapid claw strikes. His hands moved in controlled patterns designed to overwhelm an opponent's ability to dodge. The Vorthak fighting style emphasized relentless pressure and superior reach. Maria flowed between the attacks like water, finding its way around stones. Each movement was economical and precise, no wasted motion, no unnecessary risks. She seemed to anticipate Apex's strikes before he made them. Impossible qu'elle prétende. No creature should be able to read Vorthak combat patterns so easily. His champion had trained for decades to perfect those techniques. The fight continued for 5 minutes with the same pattern. Apex attacked with increasing frustration while Maria avoided every strike by the smallest possible margins. She hadn't landed a single blow of her own, but neither had she taken any damage. Ambassador Threx of the Crystalline Hegemony leaned toward his aid. What is the human strategy? She cannot win through evasion alone. In the arena, Apex was beginning to show signs of fatigue. The Vorthak physiology was built for explosive power rather than endurance. Each missed attack cost him energy, while his human opponent seemed barely winded. Maria finally spoke, her voice carrying clearly in the arena's acoustics. "You're getting tired." The simple statement hit Apex like a physical blow. A prey animal wasn't supposed to taunt its predator. The natural order demanded that he dominate this inferior creature. Apex roared and abandoned technique in favor of raw aggression. He charged forward with both claws extended, putting everything into a final devastating assault. Maria stepped into the attack instead of away from it. Her movement brought her inside Apex's reach where his long claws couldn't effectively target her. At the same time, her right hand shot upward in a precise strike that connected with a nerve cluster just below the Vorthak's jaw. Apex stumbled, his nervous system momentarily disrupted. The brief paralysis lasted only seconds, but it was enough. Maria's left hand found another pressure point at the base of Apex's skull. Her fingers pressed with surgical precision, cutting off blood flow to specific regions of the Vorthack's brain. The massive alien warrior toppled forward like a falling tree. He struck the arena floor with a thunderous impact and lay still, alive but unconscious. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Representatives from dozens of species stared at the small human female standing over the greatest champion the Vorthack Empire had ever produced. Maria knelt beside Apex's unconscious form and checked his pulse. "He'll be fine in about 20 minutes, she announced to the stunned audience. "Just a temporary disruption to his nervous system." She stood and dusted off her jacket as if she had just finished a routine task, rather than defeating a legendary warrior in single combat. Representative Chun allowed herself a small smile as she watched the alien delegates struggle to process what they had witnessed. The plan had worked perfectly. The choice of Maria Santos as Earth's champion had been deliberate and carefully calculated. She wasn't a soldier or a martial artist. She was a nurse from Phoenix, Arizona, who worked night shifts in the trauma ward of a busy hospital. Maria had volunteered for the mission when Earth's government explained their need for someone with specific qualifications. They needed someone who understood anatomy and physiology better than any warrior. Someone who could identify weakness in alien biology and exploit it without causing permanent harm. Most importantly, they needed someone with a particular mindset that came from years of dealing with violent, dangerous patients while maintaining absolute calm. "The combat trial is concluded," Chancellor Vorx announced, his ancient voice tinged with amazement. "Victory goes to the human champion." Krell's claws scraped against his observation booth's railings. "This proves nothing. Your female used some form of technology or chemical enhancement." "I'm 53 years old," Maria replied, looking up at the Vorthack ambassador. "I have arthritis in both hands and chronic back pain from 30 years of lifting patients. I take medication for high blood pressure, and I haven't had a full night's sleep in 6 months because I work double shifts to pay for my daughter's college tuition." She pulled the photograph from her jacket pocket, a picture of a young woman in a graduation cap and gown. "This is Elena. She's studying xenobiology at New Geneva University. Wants to be a doctor like her mother tried to be before life got in the way." Maria looked around at the assembled aliens. "You brought your planet's top predator. We brought a worn-out mother guarding her children. Guess which one was more dangerous?" The implications hit the alien representatives like a series of shock waves. If this was what humans considered an ordinary citizen, what were their actual warriors capable of? Ambassador Threx was the first to recover his composure. "The human has demonstrated unexpected capabilities. Perhaps we should reconsider our assessment of their species." "Indeed," agreed the representative from the silicon-based ore crushers. "Any species capable of producing such individuals deserves respect." Krell's mandibles clicked angrily. "One victory proves nothing. The Vorthack Empire will not be intimidated by tricks and luck." "It wasn't luck," Dr. Martinez interjected, stepping forward with her data pad. "During the 6 months we traveled to this station, our medical team studied anatomical data from every council species. We identified pressure points, nerve clusters, and circulatory patterns that could be used to subdue rather than kill." She gestured toward Maria. Mrs. Santos spent those same 6 months learning to identify and target those specific anatomical features. She could have ended the fight in the first 30 seconds if her goal had been to kill rather than demonstrate. The chamber erupted in urgent conversations as alien delegates processed this information. Several species began reassessing their own security protocols. Representative Chun stepped forward to address the council. "Earth requests that our application for full membership be put to a formal vote." Chancellor Vorix's massive form shifted as he considered the situation. The trial of champions had been meant to prove human worthiness, but it had revealed something far more significant. Humanity possessed the most dangerous combination possible: scientific knowledge paired with maternal instincts. "The vote will proceed as requested," the Chancellor declared. "All those in favor of granting full council membership to humanity?" The result was overwhelming. Only the Vorthak Empire and two of their client species voted against the motion. As the formal ceremonies concluded, Maria Santos found herself surrounded by alien diplomats asking questions about human capabilities and medical knowledge. She answered politely, but kept checking her chronometer. She had promised Elena she would call as soon as the trial ended. Krell approached her as the crowd began to disperse. The Vorthak ambassador's massive frame loomed over her, but Maria showed no fear. "Your species will regret this day," Krell said quietly. "The Vorthak Empire does not forget insults." Maria looked up at him with the patient expression she reserved for difficult patients. "Mr. Krell, I've dealt with angry drunks hopped up on combat stims who thought they could intimidate me. You're big and scary, but you're not the worst thing I've handled on a Tuesday night." She patted his armored forearm like she might comfort a confused child. "Besides, threatening a grandmother is poor form in any culture. Your mother would be ashamed." Krell's claws extended involuntarily at the mention of his matriarch, but Maria was already walking away. She had more important things to do than trade threats with bruised egos. Representative Chen caught up with her near the arena exit. "That was incredibly well done, Mrs. Santos. Earth owes you a tremendous debt." Maria shrugged. "I just want to get home to my kids. Elena's defending her thesis next month, and my youngest is starting high school. They need their mother more than the galaxy needs another warrior." As they walked toward the transport bay, Dr. Martinez shook her head in amazement. "Do you realize what you've accomplished here? You've changed the entire balance of power in this region of space." "I stopped a bully from picking on someone smaller," Maria replied. "Same thing I do every day at work, just with different anatomy." The human delegation ship departed station Nexus Prime 6 hours later, carrying news of humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Council. But the real message spreading through alien space had nothing to do with diplomacy or politics. Somewhere in the galaxy, an ordinary human mother had defeated the greatest warrior of a species that had conquered 47 star systems. She had done it while exhausted, worried about her children, and thinking about her next shift at work. If that was what humanity considered normal, what were they capable of when truly threatened? The question would haunt alien military planners for generations to come, fundamentally altering the balance of power across known space. The humans had joined the Galactic Council not through conquest or intimidation, but by demonstrating that their greatest strength came from their most unexpected sources. As Maria Santos settled in for the long journey home, she pulled out Elena's photograph and smiled. Her daughter would be amazed by the story, but she would also understand the most important part. Sometimes the best way to win a fight was to remember what you were fighting for. The galaxy would learn that lesson in the years to come, as humanity's influence spread not through military might, but through the quiet determination of ordinary people protecting what they loved. The age of human expansion had begun, carried forward by the steady hands of teachers, nurses, mechanics, and parents who understood that true strength came not from claws or fangs, but from the unbreakable bond between those who guard and those who are guarded. Station Nexus Prime continued its orbit around the system's primary star, but its role as the center of galactic power had fundamentally shifted. The humans were coming, and they brought with them something the galaxy had never seen before. A species where the most dangerous individuals were often the ones who looked the most ordinary. The Vorthak Empire would spend the next decade trying to understand how their greatest champion had been defeated by a tired mother with arthritis. The answer would elude them because they were looking for military secrets and advanced technology. They never considered that the most powerful force in the universe might be a parent's determination to build a better future for their children. 6 months after the trial of champions, the ripple effects of Maria Santos's victory continued spreading across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had officially welcomed humanity as full members, but the real changes were happening in ways nobody had anticipated. Commander Vex of the Hegemony Border Fleet reviewed intelligence reports with growing unease. His crystalline features shifted through worried color patterns as he processed the data streaming across his command center's displays. "Show me the summary again," he instructed his tactical officer. Lieutenant Prex manipulated the holographic display with practiced movements. 17 separate incidents in the past month, sir, all following the same pattern. The first report came from the mining consortium on Kepler 442b. A human medical team had arrived to treat an outbreak of Rigelian fever among the alien workers. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a pediatric infectious disease specialist from Earth, had identified the source of contamination within hours of arrival. The breakthrough hadn't come through advanced technology or exotic treatments. Dr. Walsh had simply applied standard Earth medical protocols, hand-washing, isolation procedures, and systematic contact tracing. Concepts so basic that the aliens had overlooked them entirely. Within 2 weeks, she had eliminated a plague that had killed thousands across multiple star systems. The mining consortium's board of directors immediately signed exclusive medical contracts with human providers. "Next report," Commander Vex ordered. The second incident involved a trade dispute on the neutral space station Gamma 7. 3 major shipping cartels had been locked in negotiations for months over new routes through Vortex space. Each side had brought their finest diplomats and most persuasive speakers. The deadlock broke when Captain Susan Martinez of Earth's Merchant Marine suggested they take a break to share a meal. What followed was 2 hours of humans cooking simple food and telling stories about their families while alien delegates relaxed for the first time in months. By the end of dinner, the 3 cartels had reached an agreement that satisfied everyone involved. The breakthrough came not through clever negotiations or political pressure, but through the simple human insight that hungry, tired people made poor decisions. "These cannot all be coincidences," Commander Vex muttered, his crystalline structure flickering with agitation. The reports continued with disturbing consistency. Wherever humans appeared, complex problems seemed to resolve themselves through frustratingly simple solutions. Their methods defied conventional wisdom about galactic diplomacy, military strategy, and economic theory. Lieutenant Prex highlighted another file. "This one might interest you, sir. It involves the Vortex Empire directly." The report detailed events on the industrial world of Vortex 7, where human engineers had been invited to consult on mining efficiency. The Vortex had expected advanced drilling techniques or exotic energy sources. Instead, they got Tom Bradley, a retired coal miner from West Virginia who had spent 40 years working underground. Tom took one look at the Vortex operations and shook his head. "You're working too hard," he told the alien supervisors through a translation device. "Let me show you something my grandfather taught me." Tom's solution involved changing shift schedules to match the planet's natural thermal cycles, repositioning equipment to take advantage of gravity flows, and teaching workers to identify dangerous conditions before they became critical. Productivity increased by 40% within the first month. More importantly, workplace accidents dropped to nearly zero. The Vortex administrators couldn't understand how such basic principles had escaped their attention for centuries. Commander Vex's colors shifted to deep purple, the crystalline equivalent of profound worry. "How many human civilians are currently operating in Council space?" "Conservative estimates suggest around 50,000, Lieutenant Prex replied. "They're spreading rapidly across multiple sectors." The true scope of human expansion wasn't measured in military units or colonial ships. Instead, Earth was sending teachers, doctors, engineers, mechanics, and other specialists wherever alien civilizations requested assistance. Each human seemed capable of revolutionary insights that somehow escaped more advanced species. A priority communication interrupted Commander Vex's analysis. The transmission bore the official seal of the Hegemony High Command. "Commander Vex, report to Sector Command immediately. Priority classification, absolute." The journey to headquarters took 6 hours through hyperspace. Commander Vex spent the time reviewing additional intelligence reports that painted an increasingly disturbing picture of human expansion. On the academic world of Nexus Prime, human anthropologist Dr. Emily Chun had resolved a century-old conflict between 2 rival philosophical schools. Her solution involved organizing a joint archaeological expedition that proved both sides had been interpreting the same ancient texts. In the Beta Centauri system, human child psychologist Maria Rodriguez had revolutionized education across 3 planets by introducing the radical concept of letting young beings play while they learned. On the hegemony homeworld itself, human chef David Park had inadvertently solved the food distribution crisis by teaching local cooks how to reduce waste through better meal planning. The pattern was always the same. Humans arrived with no special technology or advanced knowledge, then solved problems that had plagued alien civilizations for generations. They accomplished these breakthroughs by applying concepts that seemed obvious in retrospect, but had somehow eluded millions of highly intelligent beings. Sector Command occupied a massive space station at the confluence of 3 major hyperspace routes. Commander Vex's ship docked at the priority military berths, where heavy security reflected the station's strategic importance. Admiral Zenth waited in the main briefing chamber, her ancient crystalline structure pulsing with authority accumulated over centuries of command. Behind her, holographic displays showed tactical assessments from across hegemony space. Commander Vex, the Admiral began without preamble. Your sector has been designated for special monitoring. We need to understand what the humans are really doing. The Admiral gestured toward the displays, which showed human activity levels across multiple star systems. Official reports describe medical missions, engineering consultations, and cultural exchanges. But intelligence suggests something far more significant. A new hologram appeared, a tactical assessment prepared by the hegemony's best strategic minds. The analysis painted a picture of systematic infiltration disguised as humanitarian assistance. Consider the evidence, Admiral Zenth continued. Humans appear in troubled regions, offering help. Within months, local problems resolve, and human influence becomes entrenched. Economic systems reorganize around human principles. Political structures adapt to accommodate human perspectives. Commander Vex studied the data with growing alarm. When viewed from a strategic perspective, human activities look suspiciously like the early stages of a conquest campaign. Are you suggesting the humans are deliberately undermining alien sovereignty? I'm suggesting we don't understand their true capabilities, Admiral Zenth replied. The female who defeated Apex displayed knowledge that should have taken years to acquire. Yet she learned alien anatomy during a 6-month journey. The implications were staggering. If humans could absorb and apply complex information that quickly, their expansion might represent an existential threat to established galactic order. What are your orders, Admiral? Covert observation. Deploy your best intelligence assets to monitor human activities. I want to understand their methods before they become too entrenched to remove. Commander Vex returned to his sector command with new directives and troubling questions. The humans had officially joined the Galactic Council as equals, but their actual influence seemed to grow exponentially with each passing week. His first target for observation was Dr. Sarah Kim, a human geologist studying mineral formations on the disputed border world of Kepler 186f. The planet sat at the intersection of 3 major trade routes, making it strategically valuable to multiple species. Commander Vex deployed his best intelligence operatives, crystalline beings whose natural transparency made them nearly invisible when properly camouflaged. They established observation posts around Dr. Kim's research station and began documenting her activities. The initial reports seemed innocuous enough. Dr. Kim spent her days collecting rock samples, running geological surveys, and filing research reports with the Galactic Science Consortium. Her work appeared to focus on understanding the planet's mineral composition and seismic stability. But the intelligence operatives soon noticed unusual patterns in her behavior. Dr. Kim spent considerable time talking with local alien workers, not just about geology, but about their families, their concerns, and their hopes for the future. She shared meals with different groups each day, learning their customs and teaching them about human culture. More significantly, she began identifying practical solutions to problems the aliens had accepted as unchangeable. When mining equipment broke down, Dr. Kim suggested modifications that improved efficiency. When workers complained about dangerous conditions, she recommended safety protocols that reduced accidents. Within a month, productivity at the research station had increased dramatically. Worker satisfaction reached levels not seen in decades. Most importantly, the various alien species working together had begun cooperating instead of competing for resources. Commander Vex operatives reported their findings with growing confusion. Dr. Kim wasn't using advanced technology or employing coercive methods. She was simply treating everyone with respect and applying common sense to obvious problems. "It's like she can see solutions that are invisible to us," reported Agent Crystalline 7, his structure flickering with uncertainty. "She looks at a situation and immediately identifies the most efficient approach." The observation mission expanded to include other human activities across the sector. Each case revealed similar patterns: humans arriving with basic knowledge and transforming entire regions through seemingly minor adjustments to established procedures. On the agricultural world of Terra Nova 3, human botanist Dr. James Martinez had increased crop yields by 30% through crop rotation techniques that had been standard practice on Earth for centuries. The alien farmers had never considered that different plants might actually help each other when grown in sequence. In the asteroid mining belt of Sigma Draconis, human safety inspector Lisa Thompson had reduced workplace fatalities by 90% through systematic hazard identification and worker training programs. Her methods involved nothing more exotic than teaching miners to recognize dangerous conditions and communicate effectively with their supervisors. The pattern held across dozens of cases. Humans consistently achieved breakthrough results through applications of basic principles that should have been obvious to any intelligent species. Commander Vex found himself facing an impossible choice. His orders required him to assess whether humans posed a threat to hegemony interests. But his observations suggested that human influence actually benefited everyone involved. The breakthrough came when his intelligence operatives managed to intercept private communications between Dr. Kim and her colleagues on Earth. The content should have revealed the conspiracy behind human expansion. Instead, Commander Vex found himself reading messages about Dr. Kim's concerns for her elderly father, her excitement about her daughter's first steps, and her worries about paying for her mother's medical treatments. The communications revealed not a calculated infiltration scheme, but a dedicated professional trying to balance work responsibilities with family obligations. One message particularly struck Commander Vex. "The aliens here work so hard but seem so unhappy. It's like they've forgotten that efficiency means making life better, not just making numbers bigger. Today I showed them how to adjust their schedules so the afternoon shift gets to see their children before bedtime. You should have seen their faces light up." The implications hit Commander Vex like a plasma discharge. The humans weren't employing sophisticated conquest strategies. They were simply applying perspectives developed through centuries of learning how to balance individual needs with collective goals. Human society had evolved to value both personal achievement and community welfare. Their problem-solving methods naturally sought solutions that benefited everyone involved rather than maximizing advantage for a single group. To species that had evolved through competition and dominance hierarchies, such approaches seemed almost magical in their effectiveness. Commander Vex called an emergency briefing with his senior staff. The holographic display showed human activity levels across the sector, dozens of ongoing projects that were transforming alien societies from within. "We need to revise our threat assessment," he announced to his assembled officers. "The humans aren't conquering us through military force or political manipulation. They're doing something far more dangerous." His tactical officer looked confused. "What could be more dangerous than conquest, sir?" "They're making us better," Commander Vex replied. "Every human intervention improves the lives of everyone involved. They're conquering us through competence and compassion." The statement hung in the air like a suspended gravitational anomaly. The implications were staggering for military minds trained to think in terms of winners and losers. Lieutenant Prex voiced the question everyone was thinking. Should we recommend military action against human expansion? Commander Vex considered the option seriously. The hegemony possessed sufficient firepower to eliminate human presence from their territory. They could invoke security protocols and expel every human civilian within weeks. But the aftermath would be catastrophic for hegemony interests. Removing humans would mean abandoning the productivity increases, safety improvements, and quality of life enhancements their presence had created. The economic losses alone would cripple multiple star systems. More importantly, attacking beings who had done nothing but help others would violate every principle of civilized behavior. The hegemony's reputation across galactic society would suffer irreparable damage. Negative, Commander Vex finally replied. We will not take action against human expansion. Instead, we will adapt our own methods to match their effectiveness. The decision represented a fundamental shift in hegemony policy. Instead of viewing human influence as a threat to be contained, they would study human methods and incorporate successful techniques into their own operations. Commander Vex drafted his report to Sector Command with careful attention to political implications. He recommended treating human expansion as an opportunity for mutual benefit rather than a security threat. The humans possess what can only be described as institutional wisdom regarding cooperative problem-solving, he wrote. Their methods consistently produce outcomes that benefit all parties involved. We should learn from them rather than oppose them. The report triggered intense debate within hegemony leadership. Some factions argued for military action against human expansion. Others supported deeper cooperation and knowledge exchange. The deciding factor came from an unexpected source. Economic projections showing that hegemony worlds with significant human presence had become the most prosperous and stable in the entire civilization. Admiral Zentha's response arrived within days. Continue monitoring human activities. Establish formal cooperation protocols. We need to understand how they consistently achieve results that escape our most brilliant minds. Commander Vex smiled as much as his crystalline physiology allowed. The humans were indeed conquering the galaxy, but they were doing it by making everyone's life better in the process. The age of human expansion continued, driven not by weapons or warships, but by teachers, doctors, engineers, and other professionals who approached every challenge with a simple question. How can we make this work better for everyone involved? Across the galaxy, alien civilizations were beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their military prowess. It was their hard-learned wisdom about building societies where individual success and collective welfare supported each other instead of competing. The revolution had begun not with conquest, but with cooperation, and it was proving more transformative than any military campaign in galactic history. 2 years had passed since Maria Santos defeated the greatest warrior of the Vorthak Empire. The galaxy had settled into a new reality where human influence continued expanding through methods that defied traditional understanding of power and conquest. Ambassador Krell stood in his private chambers aboard the flagship Vengeance, staring at intelligence reports that painted a picture of systematic Vorthak decline. His empire, which had dominated 47 star systems through military superiority, was crumbling from within. The problems hadn't started with human military action or economic sanctions. Instead, they began when human medical teams arrived to treat a plague outbreak on Vorthak 7. Dr. Patricia Williams, an epidemiologist from Atlanta, had eliminated the disease within 3 weeks using basic sanitation protocols. But Dr. Williams had also done something else. She had trained local Vorthak medics in her techniques. For the first time in their species' history, ordinary Vorthak citizens possessed knowledge that their warrior caste had never mastered. The implications rippled across Vorthak society like cracks in a damaged hull. Citizens began questioning why their leaders had allowed thousands to die from diseases that could be prevented through simple hygiene practices. They started asking why their warrior culture had never developed solutions that a single human female could implement in 3 weeks. Krell's claws scraped against his command console as he reviewed additional reports. Similar incidents were occurring throughout Vorthak space. Human teachers were showing young Vorthak that cooperation could achieve better results than competition. Human engineers were demonstrating that infrastructure should serve populations rather than impress enemies. Most dangerously, human counselors were helping Vorthak veterans deal with psychological trauma from centuries of constant warfare. Veterans were beginning to question whether perpetual conflict was really necessary for species survival. "My lord," his aide announced through the intercom. "High Command requests your presence for an emergency session." The journey to Vorthak Prime took 2 days through hyperspace. Krell used the time to prepare arguments for military action against human expansion. The solution seemed obvious: eliminate the source of cultural contamination before it spread further. But even as he planned his presentation, Krell found himself troubled by doubts that would have been unthinkable 2 years earlier. The humans weren't attacking Vorthak civilians or threatening their homeworlds. They were helping sick children recover from diseases and teaching farmers to grow more food. The Vorthak High Command met in the Great Hall of Victories, surrounded by trophies from 1,000 conquered worlds. 47 tribal leaders represented every major system in the Empire, their scarred armor reflecting the artificial lighting like a constellation of violence. Warlord Thane, Supreme Commander of all Vorthak forces, called the session to order with ritual strikes of his warhammer. "We face an existential threat to our civilization. The humans are poisoning our people with their weakness." The evidence presented was overwhelming. Vorthak productivity had increased dramatically in systems with human presence, but warrior recruitment had plummeted. Citizens were choosing careers in medicine, engineering, and education instead of military service. "They're destroying our culture," declared Warlord Korax of the Third Fleet. "Our young refuse to embrace their warrior heritage. They speak of cooperation and peaceful resolution as if these concepts were virtues rather than weaknesses." Warlord Vex of the Outer Territories presented the most damaging evidence. "Human influence has created stability and prosperity across our border regions. But it has also eliminated the constant warfare that forges strong warriors. We are becoming soft." The assembled leaders clicked their mandibles in agreement. The Vorthak had built their empire on the principle that only through struggle could a species achieve greatness. Human methods threatened to undermine millennia of evolutionary success. But when Warlord Thane called for a declaration of war against humanity, something unprecedented happened. Several younger leaders remained silent instead of voicing immediate support. Subcommander Drex of Vorthak 7 stood to address the assembly. His armor bore fewer scars than his elders, marking him as part of the generation that had grown up during the recent period of relative peace. "Honorable warlords," Drex began, his voice carefully controlled, "I request permission to present an alternative perspective." The chamber fell silent. Challenging the wisdom of senior warlords was technically permissible under Vorthak law, but it hadn't happened in living memory. "Speak," Warlord Thane commanded, his tone suggesting that Drex's words would determine whether he left the chamber alive or in pieces. "I have observed human operations firsthand," Drex continued. "Their methods produce results that surpass anything we have achieved through traditional warfare." He activated a holographic display showing productivity statistics from Vorthak 7. "Since human medical teams arrived, our workforce operates at 95% efficiency. Disease-related deaths have dropped to nearly zero. Industrial accidents have decreased by 80%. The data was undeniable, but Warlord Korax interrupted with a dismissive snarl. "Productivity means nothing without warrior spirit. What good are healthy slaves if they cannot fight?" "They aren't slaves," Drex replied. "That's what I'm trying to explain. The humans have created something we never considered, a population that chooses to contribute because they understand how their efforts benefit everyone involved. He highlighted additional statistics showing voluntary military service rates. Recruitment has decreased for ground assault forces, but applications for defensive roles have tripled. Citizens want to protect what they've built rather than conquer what others possess. The distinction seemed meaningless to most of the assembled warlords, but it represented a fundamental shift in Vorthack thinking. Their citizens were beginning to value creation over destruction. Warlord Thane's patience reached its limits. Enough philosophy. The humans threaten our way of life. They must be eliminated before their poison spreads further. What if they're not poisoning us? Drex asked. What if they're showing us a better way to be strong? The question hung in the air like a challenge to everything the Vorthack Empire represented. Several younger leaders shifted uncomfortably, clearly wrestling with similar thoughts. Ambassador Krell found himself facing an unexpected moment of choice. His prepared arguments called for immediate military action against human targets. But something in Drex's presentation had triggered memories of his own observations during the Trial of Champions. Maria Santos had defeated Apex not through superior violence, but through superior knowledge applied with precise control. She had demonstrated strength in a form the Vorthack had never recognized. Perhaps, Krell heard himself saying, we should examine human methods more carefully before deciding they represent a threat. The statement caused an eruption of angry clicks and snarls from the assembled warlords. Several demanded that Krell be stripped of rank for showing weakness before the enemy. But Warlord Thane raised his warhammer for silence. The Supreme Commander's ancient scars told the story of a lifetime spent in battle, earning him the right to speak with absolute authority. I have ruled this empire for 70 years, Thane declared. I have conquered 17 star systems and destroyed the fleets of 9 species. I know strength when I see it. He paused, his mandibles clicking slowly as he chose his words. The humans possess something we have never encountered, the ability to make their enemies stronger instead of weaker. The observation sent shocked ripples through the assembly. Enemies existed to be destroyed, not improved. The concept challenged fundamental assumptions about the nature of conflict. Consider the evidence, Thane continued. Every species that encounters humans becomes more efficient, more prosperous, and more stable. They accomplish this without military conquest or economic domination. How? The question had haunted military analysts across the galaxy for 2 years. Human expansion followed patterns that made no sense according to traditional strategic thinking. Subcommander Drex stepped forward again. If I may, honored warlord, I believe I understand their methods. Explain. The humans fight differently than we do. We seek to defeat enemies through superior force. They seek to eliminate enemies by turning them into allies. The concept was so alien that several warlords required translation through their armor's analysis systems. The idea of deliberately strengthening potential opponents violated every principle of military doctrine. They're not trying to conquer us, Drex continued. They're trying to make us into the best version of ourselves. A version that doesn't need to conquer others to feel strong. Warlord Corax's claws extended in frustrated rage. Impossible. Strength comes only through struggle. Without conflict, we become weak and complacent. Do we? Drex activated another holographic display. Look at the medical advances achieved through cooperation with human doctors. Our warriors are stronger and healthier than ever before. Look at the engineering improvements developed through joint projects. Our weapons and ships have capabilities our ancestors never imagined. The data painted a picture that contradicted everything the Vorthack thought they knew about strength and competition. Their military capabilities had actually improved through cooperation with humans. They're making us better warriors by teaching us not to want war, Drex concluded. It's the most sophisticated conquest strategy in galactic history. The insight hit the assembled leaders like a perfectly aimed plasma blast. The humans weren't undermining Vorthack's strength. They were redirecting it toward more effective purposes. Ambassador Krell felt understanding dawn like a sunrise over a devastated battlefield. They're not trying to destroy our warrior culture. They're trying to evolve it. Warlord Thane's mandibles clicked slowly as he processed the implications. If the humans could indeed transform enemies into allies without weakening them, they possessed a form of power that made traditional conquest obsolete. What do you recommend, Subcommander Drex? Full cooperation, Drex replied without hesitation. Not surrender, partnership. Let them teach us their methods while we show them our disciplines. Create something stronger than either species could achieve alone. The proposal sparked intense debate among the assembled warlords. Some argued for maintaining traditional isolation. Others pushed for immediate military action. But a growing faction began to see the strategic advantages of Drex's approach. The final decision came from Warlord Thane himself. We will attempt cooperation on a trial basis. Selected systems will participate in expanded human exchange programs. If the results justify the risk, we will extend the arrangement. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it carried by a significant majority. The Vorthak Empire had officially chosen evolution over extinction. Ambassador Krell found himself assigned to lead the cooperation initiative. His first task involved traveling to Earth to negotiate formal agreements with human leadership. The journey gave him time to reflect on how dramatically his perspective had changed since the Trial of Champions. 2 years earlier, he had viewed humans as weak prey animals unworthy of galactic citizenship. Now he was preparing to ask for their help in transforming his entire civilization. Earth's capital city of New Geneva sprawled across the shores of an ancient lake, its architecture blending practical functionality with aesthetic beauty. Krell's shuttle landed at the diplomatic complex, where representatives from dozens of species conducted business with humanity. The human he met surprised him. Secretary of State Ellen Rodriguez was a grandmother in her 60s who spoke with the patient authority of someone accustomed to managing complex personalities. Ambassador Krell, she greeted him with perfect Vorthak pronunciation. We're honored by your visit. Please have a seat. Can I offer you refreshments? The simple courtesy caught Krell off guard. Enemy diplomats weren't supposed to show genuine concern for their counterparts' comfort. I come seeking assistance for my people, he began, the admission feeling strange on his tongue. Of course, Secretary Rodriguez replied, as if such requests were perfectly normal. What kind of assistance do you need? Krell found himself explaining the crisis within Vorthak society, how exposure to human methods had created unprecedented questioning of traditional values. His people were torn between their warrior heritage and the obvious benefits of human approaches. Secretary Rodriguez listened without judgment or gloating. When he finished, she nodded thoughtfully. Change is always difficult, especially when it challenges fundamental beliefs about identity and purpose. How do we resolve this conflict? Krell asked. Who says you have to resolve it? She replied. Maybe the answer isn't choosing between warrior traditions and cooperative methods. Maybe it's finding ways to honor both. The suggestion was so simple that Krell initially dismissed it as naive. But, as Secretary Rodriguez explained her thinking, he began to see possibilities he had never considered. Your warrior culture developed to protect your people and ensure their survival, she continued. Those goals haven't changed. What's changed is understanding that sometimes the best way to protect people is to build alliances rather than defeat enemies. Over the following weeks, Krell worked with human advisors to develop integration protocols that preserved Vorthak military traditions while incorporating human cooperative methods. The solution involved reframing warrior virtues in terms of protection rather than conquest. Vorthak warriors could maintain their elite status by becoming specialists in defensive strategy, emergency response, and peacekeeping operations. Their combat training would remain intense, but its purpose would shift toward protecting civilians rather than conquering territories. The pilot program launched on 3 Vorthak worlds with carefully selected human advisors. Dr. Michael Chun, a military psychologist, helped warrior academies develop new curricula that emphasize protection and service. Engineer Sarah Thompson worked with Vorthak shipbuilders to design vessels optimized for rescue operations rather than siege warfare. Most importantly, Maria Santos herself volunteered to establish medical training programs that taught Vorthak warriors to heal as well as fight. Her presence carried symbolic weight that made the integration process more acceptable to traditional factions. The results exceeded everyone's expectations. Vorthak warriors embraced their new roles with the same intensity they had previously devoted to conquest. Their natural discipline and physical capabilities made them exceptional peacekeepers and emergency responders. Within 6 months, crime rates on the pilot worlds dropped to historic lows. Industrial accidents became virtually non-existent. Natural disasters that would have caused massive casualties were handled with efficiency that amazed galactic observers. The success of the pilot program triggered a revolution in Vorthak society. Citizens began viewing their warriors as protectors rather than conquerors. Military service became more popular than ever as young Vorthak sought to join the ranks of those who served their communities. Ambassador Krell returned to Vorthak Prime with documentation proving that cooperation with humans had made his people stronger rather than weaker. The presentation to High Command was met with skeptical questions, but eventual acceptance. Warlord Thane himself acknowledged the transformation. "We remain warriors," he declared to the assembled leaders. "But we have learned to choose our battles wisely. Sometimes the greatest victory is achieved by making enemies into allies." The Vorthak Empire officially joined the Cooperative Council, a new galactic organization that had evolved from humanity's expansion. Unlike the traditional Galactic Council, which operated through competitive diplomacy, the Cooperative Council focused on mutual benefit and shared problem-solving. The transformation spread throughout known space as other species observed the Vorthak success. The crystalline hegemony began developing cultural exchange programs. The silicon-based ore crushers started sharing mining technologies that benefited entire regions rather than single operations. Even species that had initially resisted human influence found themselves drawn into the expanding network of cooperation. The benefits were simply too obvious to ignore. Maria Santos, now recognized as the inadvertent architect of galactic transformation, remained humble about her role in events. When interviewed by galactic media outlets, she consistently redirected attention toward the ordinary humans who were implementing changes across thousands of worlds. "I just showed them that a tired mother could be strong," she explained to a reporter from the Galactic News Network. "The real heroes are the teachers, doctors, engineers, and social workers who are out there every day making life better for everyone they meet." The reporter pressed for details about humanity's expansion strategy. "Some analysts suggest your species has developed the most sophisticated conquest campaign in galactic history." Maria laughed, the same tired but determined laugh she had used when facing down Apex in the arena. "Conquest? We're not conquering anyone. We're just doing what humans have always done, taking care of each other and trying to make things better for our children." She pulled out a new photograph from her pocket, a picture of her daughter Elena in a medical coat, surrounded by young Vorthak students learning human medical techniques. "My daughter is teaching xenobiology on Vorthak Prime now," Maria continued. Her students include the children of warriors who used to think humans were weak prey animals. They're learning that the strongest thing anyone can do is help others become stronger too. The interview ended with Maria heading back to work at her hospital in Phoenix. She had returned to her night shifts in the trauma ward after declining numerous offers for prestigious positions in galactic government. "This is where I belong," she explained to her family. "Taking care of people who need help. The galaxy can take care of itself now." But the galaxy had learned its lessons well. Human methods continued spreading not through conquest or coercion, but through the simple demonstration that cooperation produced better results than competition. The age of human expansion had reached its full flowering, a transformation of galactic civilization that made everyone stronger, safer, and more prosperous. The revolution had been led not by generals or politicians, but by ordinary people who understood that true strength came from lifting others up rather than tearing them down. Years later, Historians would mark the trial of champions as the turning point that reshaped galactic civilization. But they would also note that the real victory belonged not to Maria Santos alone, but to every human who had followed her example of quiet determination in the face of overwhelming challenges. The galaxy had learned what Earth had always known, that the most dangerous opponents were often those who looked the most ordinary, and that the strongest societies were built by people who chose to guard and protect rather than conquer and destroy. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon had been exactly what Maria Santos demonstrated in that arena 2 years earlier: the unshakable resolve of ordinary people protecting what they loved most. And love, it turned out, was the most powerful force in the universe.